Sir Keir Starmer's impassioned defence of the Human Rights Act in 2015 stands at odds with David Starkey's own critique, as he reminded Britons that Europe is a rather poor parody of what England has been for the past 700 years, unearthed reports reveal. Sir Keir Starmer replaced Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party early this month. The human rights barrister was only elected to Parliament 5 years ago. However, he has undoubtedly had valuable experience outside politics. Sir Keir worked as human rights advisor to the Policing Board in Northern Ireland, and in 2008 he was appointed Director of Public Prosecutions (DPP) and head of the Crown Prosecution Service for England and Wales. In May 2015, Mr Starmer was elected as the MP for Holborn and St Pancras and was later appointed Shadow Home Office Minister before resigning from the role in 2016. The Remain backing MP was named Brexit Secretary after the referendum, and has continually used the role to question the government's Brexit plans. As many wonder whether he will be able to restore his party's electability, unearthed reports reveal how Sir Keir issued an impassioned defence of the Human Rights Act in his maiden House of Commons speech. In 2015, he argued that the put upon and the bullied in society would have suffered if the Tories pressed ahead with their manifesto pledge to scrap it. He said, "The Human Rights Act has heralded a new approach for the protection of the most vulnerable in our society, including those in care homes, child victims of abuse and of trafficking, women subjected to domestic and sexual violence, those with disabilities and victims of crime. It will be those in low pay, those in poor housing, those with physical and mental health needs, the vulnerable, the put upon and the bullied in St Pancras and Somers Town, Regent's Park, in Gospel Oak, in Haverstock and across my constituency who will be the losers if we abandon the guarantee of equal rights for all." Speaking at a lecture organised by the right-wing think tank New Culture Forum in December, though, famed constitutional historian David Starkey dismissed the ridiculous claim Britain gets its rights and liberties from Europe. He said, "This is one of the reasons why the Remain movement has had the power that it has among younger people. They have somehow got the notion that we get our rights and our liberties from Europe. This is preposterous. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. Europe is a rather poor parody of what England has been for the past 700 years. Do we realise that the Human Rights Act was actually drafted by Winston Churchill's Attorney General? The rights set out in the Act are taken directly from the European Convention on Human Rights, which was signed by the UK in 1951. They were inspired by Winston Churchill, and drafted under the guidance of David Maxwell Fyfe, later Lord Chancellor Kilmere, in the face of considerable opposition from the Attlee government. They are absolutely fundamental to the British common law tradition, Mr Starkey claimed. He added, the convention was intended not as a piece of legislation. It was intended as an aspiration for the newly liberated countries under the heel of Germany. The catastrophe has been to turn the wording of that into legislation, which applies to individual cases. Can we all remind ourselves of the contrast between the First Amendment of the American Constitution that nothing shall be done to inhibit freedom of speech, with the equivalent in the Human Rights Convention? Can anyone recall what it says? More or less, there should be freedom of speech subject to morals, public order, about 45 other things, which of course, it is a total coach in horses for judges. According to a report published by the Sunday Telegraph in March, during the trade negotiations, the government is set to reject a request for Britain to remain aligned with European human rights laws. The report reads, EU negotiators are expected to request that Britain remains signed up to the European Convention of Human Rights (ECHR), but Britain is set to demand it be fully legally independent. That would allow the country to repeal the Human Rights Act at a later date. Boris Johnson's Conservatives have long been sceptical of the Act, with the party threatening to scrap it previously. The party's manifesto says, after Brexit we also need to look at the broader aspects of our constitution, the relationship between the government, parliament and the courts, the functioning of the royal prerogative, the role of the House of Lords, and access to justice for ordinary people. The ability of our security services to defend us against terrorism and organised crime is critical. We will update the Human Rights Act and administrative law to ensure that there is a proper balance between the rights of individuals, our vital national security and effective government. We will continue to be an outward-looking country that is a champion and beacon of human rights.
you.